What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Building Code. I'm Charlie Birtwistle, and today we are going to be talking with Sean Supple, president of Supple Homes, about his recent experience with a Buildertrend service that we call Onsite Consulting. So while that is going to be kind of the main goal of the interview, I think that Sean's mentality when it comes to change and his intentionality around to change management and why they do the things that they do are going to be applicable across any sort of implementation, regardless of if it's a Buildertrend implementation or a new SOP implementation, a new process, or a new hire. I think that change management is a really, really important concept, especially in the construction space, to really be dialed in on and why we do the things that we do. And we're going to be hearing a little bit about his experience around why they did the thing that they did, which was a on-site consulting service with Buildertrend, which I will let him tell you all about. But from a high-level point of view, it's just a service that Buildertrend provides. We send someone out to your location to teach you all about Buildertrend. There's like a 30-day ramp period and a 30-day ramp off period where they will just double down what they taught you, how to implement it across your business, and really tailor the experience towards you. So Sean is a power user of Buildertrend. He's a power builder out in California. I personally am looking forward to talk to him. As always, I'm sure I'm going to learn a ton, so hopefully our listeners do as well too. But without further ado, let's get him in here. Hey, Sean, welcome to The Building Code. Really appreciate you making the time to join me today. How's it going?
It's going wonderful. Thanks for having me, Charlie.
Absolutely. I was doing a little bit of research on you before this. We had just released a case study with Buildertrend and yourself here a little while back. So I'm excited to meet you in person and talk a little bit more. But for our listeners, we always like to start with just a quick kind of who are you, where'd you come from, and how'd you get to where you're at today?
Sure. So Sean Supple, I am the owner of Supple Homes. We're a custom home building company here in the heart of Silicon Valley in the Bay Area of California. Been in business, we're celebrating our 20th year, so we're excited about that. I'm originally from Boston and grew up there and have been out here in California for now 34 years, which is crazy to admit. Came out for college and never left. Ended up then going to law school up here in the Bay Area, practiced law for a little bit. Wasn't my cup of tea. Got into real estate for a little bit. That wasn't my cup of tea, and kind of happened into construction. Like, what am I going to do with my life? And so I had a friend from real estate who had a construction company, and I said, can I come bang some nails? And he said, sure. So I showed up, in my BMW because I was a lawyer, right? And showed up and was doing some, just some demolition. And so ripping off drywall, and kind of loved it. Loved the physicality of it. I loved the instant gratification. And so anyways, did that and learned everything I could and read books and magazines and did that for about 4 years, and then went on my own and started Supple Homes. And we just started out, me, myself, and I, as a small little remodeling company, and slowly but surely added employees and have come up to build, we've just finished a 14,000 square foot house. Wow. So we've come pretty far in the 20 years.
That's awesome. I have a million questions, but first and foremost, 20-year anniversary. Are you guys doing anything special?
We haven't figured it out yet. It actually, the actual date is coming up here in a couple weeks, or a month. So,
okay.
But you got any ideas for us?
Well, I mean, this episode should be releasing around that same time. So you got a little promo packet there in and of itself. But if I need to come out there and help you celebrate, you just let me know. I'll hop on a flight.
We'll send the invite.
The second question, I love hearing stories. One of my favorite things about being in the construction space is just the entrepreneurial mindset that a lot of businesses have and business owners have. I've heard a lot of different stories. I'm not sure if I've ever heard a lawyer to a GC pipeline. That may be the first that we have on the podcast here. So super interesting, trailblazer. What was the kind of final decision you made to jump off and start Supple Homes for yourself?
It was sort of just don't know what am I going to do with my life, honestly. And the law wasn't for me. There was a big difference between what's legal and what you personally think is right or wrong. And I was doing litigation and family law, miserable. And so I couldn't separate the two from, what the law was. And if I didn't like the law, and so that's why I got out of it. But, and just, I read, actually, I mean, to get into the nitty gritty, I read a personality book, and it said I was an artisan, and in that was construction worker. I'm like, what? So I'm like, well, let me give it a try. And so that's what I did. And it's actually And it was a long way to get here, but having the legal background and mindset and training, and then doing real estate for a year and a half, those things are both so applicable to
Right.
to building. So it's kind of came full circle in a long road, but it works.
Yeah, kind of unintentionally, you checked off a lot of really nice to have boxes, I'm sure,
Yeah.
from owning your own business there.
And so it helps me with the contracts, and things like that. And we have a very sophisticated clientele working all in high tech. We have high
Hmm.
tech and venture capitalists. So just having that education, I think, gives us credibility as well, and being able to converse on that level with people helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also super interested to hear a little bit more about, you mentioned you started out single man shop, you yourself and I, to the clientele that you're working with today and the homes that you're building. What was that? Give me kind of the high notes, the journey to get from where you started to where you're at today. What were some of the key milestones there?
I hired someone relatively quick, like a laborer, to help me, and then brought on a kind of a carpenter as I was, but the funny part is so I was the gopher for the
Hmm.
first year, right? Because we were doing work, and so I was the one going to Home Depot buying the parts to get the guys keep working. So we did that for a while. There was probably three or four of us. And slowly the projects kept getting bigger. There were referrals, all by referral. We got bigger remodels, and then we did some new houses on our own back in 2008, which was terrible, perfectly bad timing. And just then continued plugging along. And it's all been by referral, so whether the architects or previous clients or realtors. And I've always strived to go above and beyond, right, with the people. And whether we didn't make as much money, but we were doing the right thing kind of to build our brand and portfolio and mentality. We didn't make a lot of money early on. One, I didn't know what I was doing business wise, and two, we were just kind of trying to make it happen and build that reputation for we're going to do the right thing. And so it's worked out. It's worked out well. Now we're kind of a real business, which is crazy.
That's a good way to put it. Kind of a real business. That's a good benchmark to have, I suppose. Why I was super excited to have you on today. I know kind of the goal of the interview is to talk about some of your on-site consulting experiences, but I think it's going to stem a lot deeper than just that. Just from talking to you, I can tell you're very intentional about the way you do things, and you're constantly kind of driving forward yourself and your business. On your .com or on your website, you even have kind of the slogan like "building a better place to live," which is super aligned with Buildertrend's kind of mission is to build better as well too. And I think that's really important to have, especially in the construction space. I mean, the growth mindset is important everywhere, but in the construction space, there's a lot. You're just surrounded by opportunity. It seems like there's always another job that you could take on or something else that you think you could maybe be doing bigger or better. And it's easy to get lost in, okay, what are we actually trying to do here? I think the very successful people that I've had on, and I can tell that you're the same way, have a very clear mission and kind of chunk things up and go one step at a time to ultimately get to where they're trying to go. So while we talk about specifically on-sites, I think it's important for our listeners to keep in mind the same mindset can be applicable to anything, whether you're a Buildertrend customer or not, or a business owner or not. So I'm super excited. So to kick things off, maybe how long have you been using Buildertrend, and what kind of initially drew you to the platform?
Yeah, I found Buildertrend, gosh, I think it's about 7 years ago now at IBS, the International
Okay.
Builder Show in Vegas, and came across the booth, and obviously Buildertrend was not nearly as robust as it is now, but and it was the game in town, and so we were kind of floundering with our management, and I was just looking for something. One of our core values is a hunger to evolve, which I didn't have back then. But
Love
that's what
that.
you just want to get better, right? I'm constantly wanting to improve. And so it was like, hey, if we can do something better, let's do it. Easier, more efficient, more accurate. And that's kind of my mindset with everything that we do. And so Buildertrend seemed to check all those boxes. And so signed up, let's give it a try. And
Love that.
so
So that you said the mission was a hunger to evolve.
that's one of our core values, correct? A hunger to
Love
evolve.
that.
Yeah.
I have a nice little mental collection of various kind of core statements that people have had before. I always say that we need to make a t-shirt collection, of all these different things. A hunger to evolve is quickly at the top of my list there. So you signed up and then you got going with an on-site consulting service as well too, fairly
We did.
quickly.
We did sign up. It was probably a year, maybe 6 months, a year, something like that. there's so much capabilities with it. That we just felt the need that, again, I just wanted to get my team on board and teach us how to do the things the right way and make the most of it. So we signed up. You had two of your guys came out, I think, because it was relatively new service. And we spent 2 days, in our conference room going over all the different aspects teaching. And so we were so new that it was really kind of, this is how it works. And it was, quite frankly, it was a little bit overwhelming, I think, from my team because,
Hmm.
we didn't know anything about the software really. And so you don't even know what you don't know,
Right.
right? Right. Which is how we got back to, we talk about how we got to the second onsite that we just recently did. But it was, and I think things have improved a lot since the first time. But it helped us immensely. It was just a little bit overwhelming, I think, the first time we did it.
For sure. And I think that's something that is kind of a double-edged sword. And what's great about Buildertrend is what's awful about Buildertrend is it is so robust that unless you kind of have a very clear action plan on how you want to implement and adopt it across your business, it's easy to get stuck or complacent with how you're using it. Because a lot of people, and I saw in I think it was the case study that we released with you guys, you were finding value with a lot of the kind of easier to adopt features like scheduling and daily logs and to-dos. And it's important to
Right.
be like, hey, we're getting a lot of out of this tool. We're good with where we're at. We don't need to adopt some of these other features. But then you actually made the decision not that long ago, correct me on the dates there, but to have a second on-site service.
We did. We had your team out, I think the end of January, 20 or end of mid January. Yeah. Yeah, and part of it is, I'm part of a Builder 20 group,
Mm-hmm.
which is sponsored, I don't know if you're familiar with that, sponsored by the National Association of Home Builders. And they put together like-minded builders from around the country. We don't compete, and we meet twice a year. And so in the group, I would say of 16, 14 of the guys, companies use Buildertrend. And so when we would meet over the years, they were using other features that we weren't using. I'm like, wow, that seems like great. We got to learn how to do that. So that was some of the impetus to,
Mm-hmm.
to get the second on site to help implement more features.
I love that. And for our listeners that maybe aren't aware of what the service is, it's more than just we come out and talk for 2 days. Like there's quite a bit of prep work and post
Oh,
work and stuff like that as well too. Could you kind of talk through that?
yes, which I think actually was the most valuable part. So you get for 30 days prior to the actual 2 day on site. We met either once to twice a week, 1 hour meetings with myself, with one of your on-site consultants. We Zoomed and went over, basically did a deep dive into how we were currently using the software and learning how we did it and what we wanted it to do. And not only with me, but had some meetings with the project manager or my admin. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
a whole team effort. So that when the on-site began, excuse me, we had a whole head start and Willie, who did our on-site, knew who we were in
Right.
depth and how we used it and how we wanted to improve it. So when they came, he had a whole game plan of how he was going to teach us how to make it better.
Love that.
And then we had the 2 day, sorry, 2 day, and then after that was a whole another 30 days of follow-up. Again, with weekly meetings to go over what we learned, and then creating a whole guidebook, which is amazing. It's like 40 pages, I want to say, of screenshots and write-ups, and specifically for our company, how to do all these features. So that was one of the most exciting things of why I wanted to get it was the training. So we have new people come in, we have this documented and written, and they could use it to
Yeah,
learn.
it's it may be the most I've seen some of the ones that they've delivered before. One of the most robust like SOP manuals ever created, and like you said, tailored to your company. Because while everyone has to deal with selections and change orders and all the different features, the use cases for their business specifically, the clientele they're working with, the processes that they've implemented are custom. We have 20,000 customers. There's about 20,000 different ways that people want to use Buildertrend. So having it
Right.
tailored to your company is really beneficial there.
Yeah, it's huge because there's multiple ways to skin a cat,
Yeah.
right? And so it's kind of like, build a trend. You have to be something for everyone, 20,000 customers or whatever you're talking, right? And so we have to find the little niches or tweaks or work around our custom to try to be able to do what we want or adapt to a better way of doing it, how you guys have it or somebody else. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. What were some of the big, I guess, goals or maybe takeaways from that second onsite that you're really hoping to accomplish, and did you accomplish them?
Yeah, we absolutely did accomplished. The big things were honestly were a lot of just minor tweaks. Were we doing things the right way? We'd kind of, over the years learned to do stuff and maybe done workarounds. And it's like, well, is this really the most efficient way to do it? So sort of validating for one, how we were doing things. And two, which is great, Buildertrend has so many updates. I feel like they're almost coming out weekly or monthly or whatever that, things change and are new features. So it was able to make sure we were keeping up with the updates and the changes in general. Um, Two was we were not, it was the financial controls. We were not using purchase orders, which people have told me for years, you got to use purchase orders, you got to use purchase orders. And so that was a big push was to use purchase orders. So I'm excited to say we're using purchase orders now,
Love that.
which I think will be a huge benefit for us as we haven't gone through any complete projects yet, still, but I'm super excited to see how that works out. And then really making sure and using along the purchase orders that we're using the cost controls, the the reports and things to understand. We weren't doing a very good job of documenting individual cost controls per project. The company overall, I had a clear picture on, but not for
Yeah,
project specific. So really get much better on a project level financial control.
that's awesome. And I'd love to sit here and just like talk about how awesome Buildertrend's service for on-site consulting is, which I think it is. But I think I'm more impressed with like kind of your vision for your company and the buy-in to move forward with something like this and actually implement it, which is hard to do, regardless of if it's a software or a new hire or a new process or a new SOP. Change management is hard. So I'd love to hear, and I'm sure our listeners would as well too, how do you get buy-in, or how did you get buy-in with your company of like, hey, this is something I think well, I know I'm going to invest in, we're going to have someone out here, I know it's going to improve our business, but it only improves if they actually do it, right? So how do you get buy-in with your company, and what were maybe some of the things that you did to make sure that post someone coming out and teaching how to use it, those teachings would actually stick and you guys would actually find value from it?
Yeah, I think it comes from establishing first and foremost sort of a company culture,
Hmm.
of accountability and growth, and we have buy-in to one of our core values, the hunger to evolve, right? The team has bought into that. And so there's 10 of us in the company. And so we meet weekly and have team meetings and we go over those types of stuff. And so I think we'd had that. So that's kind of key, first and foremost, to have that mindset of growth and not growth, dollar volume. It's just growth getting better,
Yeah.
improvement, right? And so with that, and then I think as as I did some more research into it and could see some of the benefits, I could, excuse me, sort of outline that and show how this could make their job easier, right? Like, it's all for, I don't want to do it if it's just
Yeah.
more work at the point. But maybe, it was a different way. So there's a little bit of pushback, honestly, on we got to do this now, but if you can show that it's not really any more work, it's just different. And what the benefit is, we're going to get more information out of it. So that's the key, I think, showing what the outcome is and the benefit to the team.
Yeah. That's always important, to frame things up when you're launching big initiatives as to like what's the why behind it all. And I say it on here all the time. I always personally get so much out of these interviews because a lot of what I do here at Buildertrend is so closely related. We have internal tools that we use here at Buildertrend to manage our processes and our sales funnel and things of that nature. And my background is in data science, so anytime you wanted to, collect a new field, it's more work for our reps to do to have to mark that. And it's like, well, we're doing this because we'll be able to show you, where your pipeline is at and reduce the number of calls that you need to make. But unless you frame that appropriately going into it, then it's just extra work. And not everyone likes to skip to the step where everything's perfect, and they like to overlook the foundational pieces that you need to lay, which is oftentimes just the why behind we're doing something like this.
I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, so then $1 million question is like, what's next for Supple Homes? Do you guys have? Would you consider yourself power users now? Is there a third onsite coming in the near future, or
Well, not too soon. I mean, we just did it, so not
Yeah.
too soon for third onsite. Hopefully, we don't need a third
Yeah.
onsite anytime soon, right? We got enough out of the first or second one. I mean, I think we are power users. I mean, I think that you guys did some analytics. I think had like a 90 rating before we did the onsite or something, and so I'm sure it's ticked up. We're the goal is to kind of use all the features,
Hmm.
right? We have this service, and so let's use it. And so we are inching closer to using it all.
Love that. What about let's zoom out from just Buildertrend specifically. You're coming into year 20 now, which is very exciting. We got to figure out what the anniversary party is going to be like. But just as a company as a whole, kind of what are your goals for this year and where do you kind of hope to go?
Our goal is to really be an efficient builder trend user, right? Like I said, we just this is relatively new, some of these tweaks, and so we've got to get through projects for the year. And we do projects that are a year to 2 years long. Like I
Hmm.
said, we're
Okay.
doing big 10, 12,000 square foot houses, or so they're 2 year projects. So we're kind of slow moving in that regard in implementing new stuff. We're really just as a company, we're trying to continue to build out, level up our clientele, if you will, and continue to work on our. You mentioned SOPs. We're really trying to dial those in so that we have just a consistent platform. One of the goals for me is no matter which of our four project managers is running a project, the client gets the same
Mm,
experience, right? Everyone has their own individualities, but it's the same experience no matter what. And so if we can make that repeatable, and Buildertrend helps do that, that's my goal.
I love that. Yeah. I would say you guys are intentionally moving as opposed to slow moving. But other than that, I mean, the projects you guys are building, I was looking at your website before this, are beautiful. And so I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it, and being able to standardize that process as much as possible, I'm sure is just additional worries off of your back.
As much as possible. The fewer unforced errors that we can make, the better, right? There's going to be mistakes and errors. We can't eliminate them, but the fewer unforced ones, that's our goal.
Absolutely. Well, Sean, it's been fantastic talking to you. I got at least 3 notes written down here. Hungry to Evolve is the top one with stars around it. I'm going to start saying that all the time. To close things out here, I'd love to just hear your point of view for other builders listening to this, potentially considering an onsite with Buildertrend. What would you say to them?
Do it. It's if you care about your business, if you care about growing your team and being more cohesive, it's an expenditure that I think will vastly pay for itself. I mean, this business we've been 20 years. I hope to do it for another 20 years, right? So it's a minuscule expense, and the benefits I think would be enormous for any business considering it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Sean, so much. An absolute pleasure talking to you. We'll make sure to link your case study in the show notes as well, too, for people interested to learn more. Otherwise, really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We just heard from Sean Supple, president of Supple Homes out there in the Bay Area. Definitely lived up to the hype. I always like doing these interviews with people that other people other people at Buildertrend have interacted with, because I always hear such fantastic things. So right when I walked in today, they said, "Oh, we're so excited. We have Sean on today." I got a chance to meet him, and he was fantastic. We'll definitely link the case study that we did with him in the show notes as well, too, if you guys are interested to learn more. We actually have some data in there about the increased productivity that they saw before and after the onsite, which I found very interesting at the very least. But yeah, I took a ton of notes. Number one on there, I have the hunger to evolve. I think that is a fantastic mindset to have, especially in the construction space where things are changing not only every year, but oftentimes every day. There's constantly new tools out there, new codes, new materials, and constantly kind of pushing forward. Having that growth mindset, being on the leading edge, is just going to continue to put you ahead of your competition and ultimately put a better product in front of your clients. So I think what they have going over there at Supple Homes is very similar to what we're trying to do here at Buildertrend. So it's just fantastic talking to like-minded people that are constantly looking to push forward and constantly trying to build a better way to do things. So I learned a lot. Hopefully our listeners did as well too. As always, make sure to like, review, subscribe. Join us on Facebook at the Building Code Crew. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. I'm Charlie Birtwhistle. Peace.